I still remember the first time I saw him. We were 7, and he had scraped knees, a crooked smile, and that wild sparkle in his eyes that made everyone around him feel like the rules didn't quite apply. Our street was quiet back then, lined with old oak trees whose branches tangled like fingers reaching across the sky. The sidewalks were cracked but familiar, and the houses, though modest, smelled like home: warm bread from Mrs. Patterson's kitchen, freshly cut grass, and the faint tang of summer rain. He lived just a few doors down from me, and somehow, the universe, or maybe just coincidence, decided we were going to become inseparable. Our parents were friendly, but it wasn't about them. It was about us. From the moment we met, there was a gravity between us, invisible but undeniable. We spent endless hours running through that little neighborhood. There was a particular game we loved, treasure hunters, we called it. One would hide a small trinket, the other would hunt for it. It was ridiculous, messy, and endlessly thrilling. The thrill wasn't in finding the treasure. It was in the chase, in the laughter, in the way our hands would brush as we dove under bushes or scrambled over fences. At that age, the world was vast and ours to explore, and he was my constant companion. I remember the first time I realized he made me feel different. I was 9, and we had climbed the big oak in my backyard. I had a scraped knee and tears in my eyes. He sat beside me, brushing a strand of hair from my face, and said, "Don't cry. I've got you." It was a simple sentence, but it lodged itself in my chest. Warmth, safety, and a strange flutter of something else. I didn't understand what it was, but I liked it. Liked him. Liked the way the world felt, smaller and softer when he was around. School was another adventure. We went to the same elementary school and then the same high school. Every hallway, every locker, every class became another thread in the fabric of our friendship. We did homework together, traded secrets, and shared dreams that, at the time, seemed boundless. When I stumbled over my words in class or fumbled a project, he was there, not to correct me, but to make me laugh and remind me I wasn't alone. And yet, there was something unspoken, hovering quietly in the spaces between our words. A glance held a second too long. A touch lingered just a heartbeat more than necessary. I didn't recognize it then. I only knew it felt different from the way I felt about anyone else. It was a mixture of comfort and curiosity, friendship and something deeper, but I didn't name it. Not yet. By the time we reached middle school, our friendship had cemented itself into something almost ritualistic. Every afternoon, after school, we'd meet at the corner of Maple Street. Our base camp. We'd talk about everything: our favorite books, the latest cartoons, the absurd crushes we'd concocted on fictional characters. But mostly, we talked about us, the world we were building together in that small slice of our neighborhood. Summer was the best. Endless days of biking down empty streets, climbing trees, and building makeshift forts in the park. Nights were for stargazing, lying on the hood of his dad's old pickup, pointing out constellations and imagining grand futures far beyond the borders of our small town. He'd talk about adventures he wanted to have, places he wanted to see, and I'd listen, heart pounding with excitement and an odd, growing awareness that I wanted to be there with him for every one of them. High school brought new layers of complexity. Our classes diverged, we made other friends, and for a while I thought the closeness might fade. But somehow it didn't. We adapted. He was still the first person I ran to when something went wrong, still the one who understood my jokes when no one else did, still the one who could make a cloudy day feel bright. And though boys and girls around us began pairing off, dating, experimenting, I never considered anyone else the way I considered him. There was no jealousy, at least not consciously. It was more like a quiet certainty that, somehow, he mattered in a way no one else could. I do remember prom. He went with someone else. I went with someone else. It was awkward at first, the shuffle of couples and the confetti, the music too loud and sticky with perfume. But when I saw him across the gym, smiling in a way that made my stomach flip, I realized that no matter where life took us, no matter how many new people entered our orbit, there was this constant gravitational pull between us. And I knew, though I buried it deep, that my feelings were no longer just friendship. Yet, I never acted. I was traditional, cautious, unsure if it was even allowed to feel so strongly for a friend. He never asked, and I never offered. We simply existed side by side, a pair of familiar souls navigating the complicated terrain of adolescence and early adulthood. And in that existence, there was comfort, but also an undercurrent of longing I couldn't yet articulate. Those years shaped me. They shaped him. They created a bond so profound that even years of separation, college, and new friendships could not sever it. And though I did not know it at the time, those foundational years, the scraped knees, the late-night talks, the tree forts and stargazing were laying the groundwork for a love that would one day crash against the walls of reality, demanding to be acknowledged. Looking back now, I realize those childhood days were not just memories, they were a promise, a silent contract of intimacy, trust, and love. And though I couldn't have known it then, that promise would follow me like a shadow into the years where our paths diverged and converged, eventually leading to a night I would never forget, the nights we spent in those backyards. Whispering dreams to the stars were innocent. They were pure. And yet, even then, if I had been brave enough to name what I felt, to claim it, I wonder if everything might have been different. But courage, as I would learn much later, does not always arrive at the right time. So we grew. We changed. We stumbled through adolescence with each other as anchors, and through it all, I kept this secret tucked away, this quiet, relentless love that I did not dare speak. And though it remained unspoken, it shaped me, molded my heart, and quietly demanded a reckoning that I was still, at that moment, utterly unprepared to face. By the time high school ended, we were no longer the same children, yet somehow still tethered. I went away for college, and he went elsewhere. Our correspondence faltered. Life pulled us in directions neither of us could fully anticipate. And in those years of separation, I began to understand that the feelings I had kept hidden were not fleeting. They were the foundation of something enduring, something irrevocable, something that would not, could not, be erased by time or distance. But like all great forces hidden in plain sight, they waited, patient, unyielding, and unrelenting. In a moment they would demand attention. And I had no idea how soon that moment would come, or how devastating it would be. As we stepped into adulthood, everything began to change. After high school, I left for college in another city, while he took a different path of his own. The new city was vast and unfamiliar, filled with towering buildings, cafes that stayed open late, and people from every corner of the country. At first, I was exhilarated. Freedom, independence, endless possibilities. But alongside the excitement was an emptiness I had never felt before. He wasn't there. We stayed in touch, but a few phone calls here and there, some texts to check in, but gradually the distance grew. I made new friends, joined clubs, met people from all over, yet deep down, my heart still gravitated toward him. On quiet nights, lying in bed under the warm glow of my desk lamp, I would think of him. What is he doing? Does he miss me like I miss him? Time passed quickly. College brought first loves, awkward dates, and romantic gestures that had never existed in our childhood. I dated a few guys, he did too. But no one, absolutely no one, could ever replace the place he held in my heart. Every time I laughed with a new boy, a thought lingered. Does he see me that way? The answer was always a silent, aching void. We reunited for the first time after 4 long years, both of us back in our hometown looking for jobs. Seeing him there, smiling warmly as if no time had passed, my chest tightened. At first, the conversation was casual work, life, everyday things, but within days, it was as if no time had passed at all. We were hiking, stargazing, sipping morning coffee together, and staying up talking until midnight. But now, I started noticing something new, the way my heart beat faster around him, the way a touch lingered just a little longer, or the way he looked at me when I said something stupid. I told myself it was familiarity, but deep down I knew it wasn't. He had never shown romantic interest. No promises, no long hugs, no secret kisses. We were still friends, but in every glance, every casual touch, there was a hidden current of emotion I couldn't name. I wondered, should I tell him? Would he even notice? And then he started dating someone else. When I heard the news, my heart stung, but I smiled and congratulated him. I wanted him to be happy. I wanted him to feel joy, even if it meant burying my feelings deep inside. Yet, the dates, the laughter, the stories of his new love, everything cut me in ways I tried to hide. I was in love with him, quietly, desperately, and now it hurt in ways I hadn't anticipated. I remember one night hiking up the hill near town. He talked about her, their first meeting, their early dates. I listened, smiling through the ache, knowing my love had deepened beyond what friendship could contain. And still, I didn't speak. A close friend, the one who always understood me best, said something I couldn't forget. If you don't tell him now, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. It hit me like lightning, terrifying and exhilarating all at once. I had waited a lifetime to speak my truth, but was it too late now? The day he proposed to her, I stood there, smiling, congratulating him, yet inside, everything was tangled and raw. I watched his happiness, the smile on her face, and I realized my chance was slipping away. A friendship I had treasured for years, a love I had kept secret, now stood against an insurmountable wall. In the days leading up to the wedding, we still met as usual, hiking, coffee, long conversations, but each interaction felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I wanted to be near him, yet I wanted to run away to protect myself. I began to understand something I hadn't fully grasped before. Love isn't just about waiting. It's about courage. The courage to admit how you feel, no matter the risk. One night, just a few days before the wedding, I sat alone in my room, looking out over the city lights. I remembered those nights in our childhood, lying on the hood of his old truck, staring at the stars, dreaming of the future. Back then, I never imagined a day when standing next to him would feel so heavy, so suffocating, simply because I couldn't have him. I started imagining what might happen if I told him. Would he turn to me, realize I had loved him all along? Or would he walk away, leaving me with all the words I had never spoken? The thought was painful, but it also ignited something inside me. I knew that chance was slipping fast, the wedding was near, and time waits for no one. After years apart, we reunited on a warm autumn afternoon. I had just finished my shift at a nearby cafe, and he had finished work at his new company. Seeing him there, that familiar smile on his face, my heart skipped a beat. Even after all this time, he looked the same friendly, warm-eyed, as if no distance had ever separated us. We started meeting more often. At first, it was casual morning coffee, walks around the old neighborhood, chatting about work and life changes. But within weeks, our meetings became a habit, an unspoken ritual. Just like in our childhood, hiking hills, stargazing, sharing endless conversations late into the night. One afternoon, we climbed a hill on the outskirts of town, where we could see the whole town bathed in the golden glow of sunset. The world felt quiet, with only the wind rustling leaves and the occasional bird singing. We sat side by side on a large rock, sipping water, watching the sky change colors. My heart raced as he leaned slightly toward me, eyes lighting up at a shooting star streaking across the horizon. There were moments when our hands brushed, reaching for a water bottle or pointing at a constellation, and my heart fluttered uncontrollably. Part of me wanted to pull away, while another part wanted to hold onto that fleeting contact. It was both comforting and thrilling. I told myself it was just familiarity, just the bond of long friendship, but deep down, I knew I was in love with him. Quietly, deeply, and desperately. We shared stories of childhood memories, of forgotten adventures and dreams we once had. Despite having grown up and the world having widened around us, our friendship remained the invisible thread connecting us. But now, that thread carried something more. Every laugh, every glance, every accidental touch made me nervous and excited at the same time. Gradually, I realized he had changed, too. He was mature, calmer, yet still held that mischievous warmth I had adored since childhood. When he laughed, I felt both joy and fear because I knew I loved him more than I dared admit. And that love was growing stronger every day. Regardless of reality, we tried new things together, canoeing on the lake, weekend workshops, even multi-day hiking trips. Each trip brought us closer, but never crossed the boundary of friendship. Sometimes we slept side by side in tents, the flicker of a lantern illuminating our faces, talking late into the night about trivial things and future plans. I felt the intimacy, the absolute trust, but never dared to voice my feelings. Another evening we lay on the grass by the lake, staring up at the starry sky. He pointed out constellations, telling mythological stories about heroes and gods above. I laughed, listening, heart racing. It was simple, perfect, yet fragile. This happiness was friendship, while the love I felt for him remained hidden, unspoken during these days of reunion. I started realizing a painful truth. I could no longer control my emotions. He had become the center of my world, yet I didn't know if he would ever see me the way I saw him. Sometimes, I caught him looking at me a second too long, or smiling in a way that felt unusually warm. But I convinced myself it was just closeness between friends. Occasionally, I imagined speaking up. If I told him I loved him, would he be surprised? Would he look at me differently? Or would he quietly step away, leaving me with all the words I had never spoken? The thought was terrifying but exhilarating. That push and pull became part of every meeting, every hike, every night under the stars. Each coffee, each hike, each starlit night felt like a challenge to my heart. I wanted to be near him, yet I wanted to step back to protect myself. Our friendship was both sweet and painful, teaching me that love is not just about waiting, it's about courage. The courage to face your own heart, to confront risks, and to speak when the moment comes. Yet, I still didn't speak. Every day, my quiet love grew stronger, weaving itself into every thought, every dream, every ordinary moment with him. I knew that one day, this love would demand a decision, and I didn't know if I was brave enough to meet that moment. In the weeks following our reunion, I began to see a reality I had long tried to ignore. He hadn't just grown up, his heart had found someone else. One afternoon, as we walked through our old neighborhood park, I noticed him texting, a radiant smile lighting up his face as he read the messages. And in that instant, I knew she was now a part of his life. An emptiness hit me, but I forced a smile. I wanted him to be happy. I wanted to see him laugh and feel joy. But deep down, my chest ached. Every message, every story about her left me feeling isolated and raw. I asked myself, why wasn't my love enough? Why did the person I loved choose someone else? We continued to meet like before, hiking, coffee, stargazing. Yet everything felt different now. I started noticing the little things, the way his eyes lit up when he spoke of her, the quick replies to her texts, the subtle difference in his smiles toward me. I knew I couldn't step into that space, yet a part of me still longed to be near him, to witness his happiness firsthand. One evening, we sat atop a hill overlooking the town, the lights sparkling below. I finally whispered, "Are you really happy?" He looked at me with a gentle gaze and said, "I am. But I don't want to hurt you." I nodded, tears brimming. I realized then that even though he cared for me, his heart belonged to someone else. The days that followed were a whirlwind of conflicting emotions, wanting to be close to him, yet wanting to run away to protect myself. I could feel our friendship still existed, but it was tangled with unspoken words and boundaries that had shifted. I recalled childhood memories, our hikes, our nights under the stars, and understood that my feelings for him had grown beyond friendship. I tried to suppress my emotions, but it was impossible. Once, as he shared his plans for the future with her, my heart shattered. I knew that the chance for us to be more than friends was slipping away. Yet a small part of me still hoped, still wanted to tell him, just so he would know that a quiet, profound love had existed for him all these years. One night, walking under the starry sky, I finally said, "I have to tell you. If I don't, I'll regret it forever." He looked at me, his eyes deep and somber, as if he already sensed what was coming. I drew a deep breath, heart pounding, and the words came out in fragments, carried away by the night breeze. I've loved you all these years." He was silent. I stared into his eyes, hoping for some miracle, but all I saw was hesitation, inner conflict, and a trace of sorrow. He inhaled deeply, voice trembling. "Please, understand. I've chosen my path." I froze, as if suspended in time, standing between the quiet of the night and the weight of my heartbreak. From that moment, I understood that my love couldn't change his choice. I could love him, but I couldn't claim his heart. I felt the harsh truth. He had found happiness with someone else, and I was left with my silent pain in the days that followed. I tried to restrain my emotions, to accept that our friendship would remain, but love could not walk alongside it. I began journaling, pouring out every feeling, every memory, every unspoken word. I was learning to accept, learning to see him happy without me, learning to let go when the moment wasn't mine. Yet deep inside, my heart still lingered. Every meeting, every glance, every smile still made me ache. I realized that love isn't always reciprocated, but that very feeling, its thrill, its pain, its quiet hope was what made my youth vivid, unforgettable, and genuine. And then I knew the wedding night was coming, a night where he would give his heart to someone else, and I would have to stand on the sidelines, confronting all the emotions I had carried for years. I told myself this wedding would be the decisive moment, where I would face reality, love, and my silent heartbreak, preparing for the turning point in my life. The wedding day had arrived, and everything around me seemed to slow down. I stood in the small hotel room, hands trembling as I held a cup of warm tea, staring out the window at the familiar streets bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon. Outside, the sounds of wedding music and laughter from the guests floated in, but inside there was an emptiness I couldn't shake. Tonight, he would give his heart to someone else, and I would have to stand aside, watching without being able to change anything. I wore a simple pastel dress, letting my hair fall naturally, makeup subtle. Every detail was chosen for one reason: to look composed, to hide the heartbreak I carried. But my heart, despite all attempts, was racing. I told myself, just tonight I will feel every emotion fully, whether it brings joy or pain. Stepping out of the room, I saw him dressed in a sharp black suit, eyes bright, smile wide. He was smiling at her, his bride in a pristine white gown, hands intertwined, eyes filled with love and happiness. I smiled, though my heart was breaking. Each step I took toward the reception felt heavy, weighed down by emotion. Every sound, every laugh faded away, leaving only his image in my mind. During the ceremony, I sat in the back row, watching every detail: the way he held her hand, the gentle way he looked at her, the smile he gave when they exchanged rings. Everything was perfect. It hurt. In my heart, all the memories with him, our hikes, our nights under the stars, our childhood stories flooded back. Twisting my chest, when the ceremony ended and guests began to mingle, I stood quietly at the edge of the room, watching everyone toast and laugh. I forced a smile, but a powerful urge surged through me. If I didn't speak now, I might regret it forever. Part of me was terrified, telling me it was too late. Another part urged me forward, to let him know that a quiet, enduring love had existed for him all these years. I sought out my closest friend among the guests, the one who understood me best, and asked, should I tell him? Just once, before it's all over. My friend looked at me seriously, eyes full of resolve. If you don't say it now, you'll never forgive yourself. Just once say it. My heart pounded. I took a deep breath and stepped toward him. Time seemed to slow. Every note of music, every laugh faded, leaving only his image before me. Standing in front of him, breath-catching, I began, I have to tell you. I've loved you all these years. But his eyes welled up, lips trembling. I felt surprise, sorrow, and a trace of rejection in that instant. He shook his head, voice trembling. Please. Just leave. I froze. My heart seemed to stop for a moment. I understood he had made his choice, and I could not intervene. I turned away, tears streaming, each step heavy. The despair, the heartbreak, the regret washed over me. The silent love I had nurtured for so long felt futile. All that remained was myself, and every memory, every unspoken word. In the weeks after the wedding, I avoided seeing him. Even a simple message or call asking about my health made me flustered. Once, he texted during a stressful time, asking how I was holding up. I replied briefly, trying to be normal, yet inside, my emotions were still raw. I began to realize that love isn't always reciprocated. Courage isn't always about winning the person you love, sometimes about facing reality, accepting loss, and moving forward. I knew he would always hold an important place in my heart, but that love would remain a memory, a beautiful yet painful part of my youth. To cope, I started journaling daily, pouring out every memory, every feeling, every word I'd never spoken. Writing gave me relief, even if the pain lingered. I learned to accept that love doesn't always lead to happiness, and that memories, friendship, and shared moments could warm my heart in their own way. I remembered nights hiking under the stars, the stories he told from our childhood, long conversations that stretched past midnight. I realized that, despite the pain, these experiences had shaped me, had given me the courage to feel, to love, and to live fully with my emotions. I told myself that one day I would look back and smile. Smile because I dared to love, dared to feel, dared to live with my heart fully open. Though regret and pain remained, it was proof that I had lived, loved, and experienced a profound, silent, yet sincere love. And in the quiet of the night after the reception, I stood on the balcony, gazing at the sparkling city lights below, breathing deeply, feeling both the ache and the vitality of life. I knew that from this moment, I would begin my own journey, to heal, to accept, and to open new chapters in my life. After the wedding night, everything around me seemed quieter. The city continued its usual buzz streets lit up, laughter and chatter spilling from cafes, but inside me, there was a profound stillness. In the first few days, I could hardly face reality. The emptiness, the ache, the sense of loss consumed every thought, every heartbeat. I began spending a lot of time alone, walking through familiar streets, sitting in our usual cafe, watching people pass by without anyone knowing the turmoil in my heart. Every corner, every familiar scene reminded me of our afternoon walks, nights stargazing, childhood stories we shared. I realized that those memories, sweet or painful, were a crucial part of my life, proof of the love I had given wholeheartedly, but pain alone couldn't define me. I understood that if I kept dwelling on sadness, I would lose myself. I needed to stand up, to find the version of myself I had once been, to learn to love myself more. I began journaling daily, pouring out every emotion, every memory, every thought that had never been spoken. Writing brought relief, even as the ache remained. I also turned to my closest friends, sharing my feelings and receiving invaluable advice. They reminded me that love isn't always reciprocated, but what matters is living with your heart, learning to accept, and growing from those experiences. I started exploring new activities, cooking classes, book clubs, weekend treks. Each experience was a step toward healing, creating new memories, and learning to let go of the past. There were nights when I still dreamt of him. We were walking together, stargazing, sharing conversations, and I could feel the love I had for him as vividly as ever. But each time I woke up, I reminded myself that it was just a dream. that reality was different. He had moved on to another chapter of his life. I began to understand that loving someone doesn't always mean having them. Sometimes it's about watching them be happy from afar, accepting the truth, and carrying that love quietly in your heart. As time passed, the pain gradually gave way to a sense of peace. I realized that those months of sorrow were also an opportunity to look inward, to learn to love myself, and to appreciate the value of friendship, memories, and shared moments. I no longer blamed him nor myself. I learned to be grateful for the experiences that shaped me. One day, sitting in a cafe watching the world go by, I smiled. The pain was still there, but it no longer pierced my heart. I knew I had learned a precious lesson. Sincere love doesn't always bring happiness, but it always teaches courage, patience, and the ability to let go. I began planning for my future and finished dreams, new relationships, and most importantly, my own life. I also started to cherish ordinary moments. A sunny morning, a cup of coffee by the window, birds singing outside, or simply the quiet to reflect. These small moments, though not grand, became the foundation for reclaiming myself. I began to see that love isn't just about romantic feelings for someone, it's about love for life, for friends, and for yourself. In the process of recovery, I realized that memories of him weren't just painful, they were beautiful parts of my life. Each time I remembered our nights, hiking, stargazing, or childhood stories, I felt warmth. I learned to transform pain into strength, to keep precious memories without letting them weigh me down. Finally, I understood that recovery isn't about forgetting, it's about learning to live with your feelings, letting them become a part of you without causing harm. I knew that the silent love I had for him would always exist, but now it was no longer a burden, it was a treasured memory, teaching me about maturity, courage, and the power of letting go at the right time. And then, standing on the balcony one afternoon, watching the sun cast its golden light over the city, I smiled. I knew I was ready for a new chapter, opening my heart to new possibilities, new love, and most importantly, to myself. I had learned to heal, to accept, and to move forward with a steadier heart. Time after the wedding night passed slowly but steadily. I had gradually learned to accept, to love myself, and to hold on to the memories of him as a beautiful part of my youth. But no one can ever be fully prepared for the surprises life throws our way. One late weekend afternoon, I received an invitation to a small gathering hosted by a mutual friend. At first, I considered declining, but a part of me wanted to face him in a normal setting, not a wedding or ceremonial environment. I wore a simple yet elegant dress, reminding myself that today was just about meeting friends, and I would control my emotions. When I entered the cozy room, soft lights glowing and gentle music playing, I saw him chatting with a few friends. My heart skipped a beat, but I took a deep breath and stayed calm. He noticed me and smiled, his eyes warm as always, but this time without the weight or longing I had once seen there. I realized that now there was an invisible distance between us, both close and distant, familiar yet strange. At first our conversation was casual. We laughed, shared ordinary stories, asked about work, family, and recent trips. I noticed that, while my heart still carried remnants of longing, I had learned to manage my emotions, to remain composed, and not let past love dictate my actions. Then, unexpectedly, he leaned closer and said softly, "I need to tell you something, but I'm not sure if I should." I looked at him, heart pounding, knowing this could be an important conversation, yet reminding myself to be mentally prepared. He spoke about the months after the wedding, the joys and challenges, moments of reflection about choices he had made. He admitted that, although he was happy, he occasionally thought of those who had been important parts of his life, memories and feelings that had never been expressed. I listened silently, absorbing every word, every emotion he conveyed. That moment felt strange, an intimate connection without romantic undertones. I realized that he was seeking understanding, and I had become the only person who could listen without judgment or complication. I felt a rare relief, a sensation I hadn't experienced in years, being near him, seeing him, without the pain of unrequited love. Our conversation continued, and I began to share about myself. I spoke of the days of healing, the steps I had taken to learn self-love, new experiences and relationships I was building. He listened, nodding, eyes gleaming with a gentle emotion. We laughed, shared ordinary moments, but this time I felt no yearning to claim him. Instead, it was a mature appreciation, a friendship that had grown deeper through experience. At one point, he asked if things could have been different. If we could go back in time, would you want? I gently interrupted, smiling. No, we've lived with our choices. What happened taught us to grow, and now we can still be ourselves, but in a different way. I have no regrets. He paused, smiled, a flicker of sadness but also understanding in his eyes. I realized that answer was not only my acceptance, but also a message to him. True love sometimes isn't about possession, but about honoring, appreciating, and letting go at the right moment. The gathering came to an end, and we stood by the door to leave. He lightly held my hand, no longer heavy or hesitant. Thank you for always being there, listening and understanding me, he said. I smiled, heart at peace. For the first time in years, I felt that the love I had for him was no longer a burden but a gift, a beautiful piece of my life's story, stepping out into the cool evening air. I drew a deep breath, knowing I was truly ready to open my heart to new opportunities, new love, and most importantly, to my own life. I realized that the final turning point wasn't a declaration of love or a romantic gesture, was the moment of maturity, the moment of letting go, the moment of finding peace within. Walking home, city lights reflecting in my eyes like sparks of hope, I smiled. Life was still long, and every experience, sweet or painful, had made me stronger. First love doesn't always last forever, but it teaches courage, appreciation, and the ability to move forward with a resilient heart. And I knew the next chapter of my life was waiting to be written. No one could write my story for me except myself. I had learned to heal, to accept, and to love myself. All the memories and emotions now formed the foundation for stepping into life with an open heart, ready to embrace new happiness and cherish every present moment. Time moved on, as it always does, but the rhythm of my life was no longer quite the same. The experiences I had, the memories I carried, and even the emotions that once caused me so much pain had become essential parts of who I was. I realized that life doesn't always give us what we want, but it always teaches us invaluable lessons, only we are willing to listen. I began to look inward, reflecting on my choices, my feelings, and the moments I had lived through. I came to understand that first love, even when it doesn't end in partnership, is a priceless gift. It teaches us courage, the courage to feel deeply, to give our hearts fully, to cherish moments, and to recognize the value of personal growth and the ability to let go. One day, completely by chance, I ran into him at a small community event. That moment wasn't cinematic or dramatic, it was quiet, ordinary, yet somehow profound. He looked composed, I felt calm, and when our eyes met, there were no lingering pangs of unspoken longing, just a mutual understanding, a respect for the paths we had chosen, and a quiet appreciation for what we once shared. We exchanged small talk, projects, hobbies, life updates, and laughed together like old friends, reconnecting after years apart. In that brief interaction, I realized that love isn't always about possession or romantic outcomes. Sometimes, love is about understanding, about letting go gracefully, and about keeping cherished memories close without letting them weigh us down. After that encounter, I focused on myself. I pursued learning and personal growth, engaged in meaningful work and social activities, and gradually opened my heart to new relationships. I came to understand that happiness doesn't always come from romance, it comes from confidence, self-love, and authentic connections with friends and family. One sunny morning, I sat on my balcony, sipping coffee and watching the city awaken. A gentle breeze brushed my face, and I smiled at myself. The past no longer hurt. It had become a source of strength, teaching patience, resilience, and the ability to move forward. Every experience, whether joyous or painful, had contributed to the person I had become, stronger, more composed, and appreciative of both myself and the life around me. I remembered those nights stargazing, hiking adventures, and childhood conversations with him. Those memories, once bittersweet, had transformed into treasures, beautiful chapters in my life that I could revisit without pain. I realized that love doesn't need to be reciprocated to be meaningful. It only needs to be felt deeply, lived fully, and used as a catalyst for growth and self-discovery. Gradually, I began opening my heart to new opportunities. I met new people, built authentic connections, and came to understand that happiness is not always a romantic story. It is the serenity, the small joys of everyday life, the ability to embrace oneself fully, and the courage to pursue one's own path. Life belongs to us, and we have the right to seek and create our own happiness. Looking back on the journey from silent longing and heartbreak to recovery and personal growth, understood that every emotion, every moment, every bit of pain and joy had meaning. They had shaped me into the person I am today, resilient, patient, and capable of cherishing both memories and the present. Finally, I closed my eyes for a moment, savoring a sense of deep peace. I understood that first love, even if incomplete, had taught me invaluable lessons: to love courageously, to let go gracefully, and to live fully with an open heart. Opening my eyes to the city lights reflecting in the morning sun, I felt a renewed sense of hope and possibility. I was ready for the next chapter of my life. Chapter 1 would write myself. No one could write it for me. I had learned to heal, to accept, and to love myself fully. All the memories, all the emotions, now served as the foundation for embracing life with an open heart, ready to welcome happiness and to cherish every present moment. The ending of this story is not about loss or heartbreak. It is about acceptance, maturity, and a powerful reminder: love, memories, and experiences, even those that once caused panache, among the greatest teachers of life. Love boldly, embrace experiences fully, and live authentically with every feeling. That is the ultimate lesson, and the most beautiful one of all. And as I stepped forward into the morning, breathing in the crisp air and feeling the warmth of the sun, I knew with certainty my story was mine to live, mine to shape, and mine to cherish. I was ready to embrace life completely, courageously, and with an open heart, because I had learned that happiness is something we create, starting from within. After months of healing and acceptance, I began to feel, more clearly than ever, that life was opening up new possibilities before me. Gone were the lingering feelings of regret or the weight of past heartbreak. I realized that true happiness begins with oneself, the ability to love and respect your own heart. I started exploring activities I had once hesitated to try. Art classes, book clubs, personal development workshops all became spaces where I could discover myself, challenge my comfort zones, and find joy in simple, meaningful experiences. Each passing day, I felt stronger, more confident, and, most importantly, in harmony with my own heart. During this period, I also met new people, friends from diverse backgrounds, all carrying their own passions and sincerity, their stories, their perspectives, and the genuine connections we built reminded me that life is far bigger than I had ever imagined. I learned to open my heart, to trust others, and, most importantly, to balance emotion with reason. One day, at a creative workshop, I met someone special. He wasn't a romantic interest right away, but a companion in my journey of self-discovery. We collaborated on projects, shared ideas, and slowly realized that a deep emotional connection can bring profound happiness, even without romance. I learned to value companionship, understanding, and the simple joys people bring into each other's lives. At the same time, my career began to flourish. I realized that independence and professional growth were not just means to an end, they were ways to assert myself, find joy, and discover purpose in each effort. Every project I completed, every challenge I overcame, reinforced the power I carried within me. I understood that growth isn't just about understanding emotions, it's about action, taking risks, and continuously evolving. Gradually, I discovered that self-love is the foundation for all meaningful relationships. When I valued and respected myself, I could open my heart to others without being dependent on them. I learned to set healthy boundaries, honor my emotions, and approach life with gratitude. One crisp autumn afternoon, as I walked along a familiar street, the golden sunlight falling through the leaves, I realized my heart no longer felt empty or adrift. Instead, it was calm, energized, and filled with hope. Memories of him and past experiences had become building blocks, helping me forge a path forward with confidence and joy. I also began journaling in a new way. It wasn't just a place to vent emotions anymore, it became a space to record dreams, plans, lessons, and self-reflections. Each page reminded me that I am the author of my own story, and that happiness doesn't come from outside. It is something I create every day. During this journey of growth, new challenges emerged. There were tiring, stressful days. Moments of loneliness occasionally returned. But this time, I didn't run or hide. I learned to face challenges, to heal myself, and to recognize that every difficulty was an opportunity to understand myself better, to test my resilience, and to cultivate patience. One of the most important lessons I learned was that life is never perfect, but it's precisely its imperfections that give it beauty. Not everything goes according to plan, and not every love story is complete. But if we learn to accept, to appreciate, and to value each moment, we will find true happiness and inner peace. I began to dream again, dreams, no longer dependent on anyone else, but rooted in my own abilities, passions, and choices. I dreamed of new adventures, projects to challenge myself, authentic relationships, and a life where I am always the best version of myself. I realized that growth isn't just about ending a love story or overcoming heartbreak. It's the ability to stand firm with oneself, to treasure the past, and to be ready to embrace the beauty ahead. I learned to love myself, to give without expectation, and to savor each moment of life with an open heart. As autumn gave way to winter, I continued this journey of exploration and growth. Each day presented opportunities to learn, experience, and live authentically. I smiled at the past and walked forward with confidence, knowing that life, with all its joys and challenges, is meant to be lived fully. Finally, I understood that happiness isn't a destination, it's a journey. Every experience, every emotion, every relationship forms the stepping stones along the path I walk. I reminded myself, love yourself, appreciate what you have, and never be afraid to open your heart to new opportunities. With a heart full of peace and hope, I stepped into the future, ready for new stories, new experiences, and new joys yet to be discovered. And I knew, no matter what happens, I am strong, I am grown, and I am brave enough to live a full life, true to myself. Life flows on, like a river that never stops. But now I walk to a different rhythm. I had learned to listen to my heart, to be patient with my emotions, and to accept that everything happens for a reason. Gone were the empty moments, the confusion, and the regrets from the past. I realized that life doesn't wait for anyone, and if we don't seize every moment, if we don't grow from our experiences, we will remain stuck, watching time pass without truly living. One early morning, the gentle sunlight streamed through the curtains as I sat with my coffee, breathing deeply and watching the street slowly awaken. A profound sense of peace spread through me. Every memory of him, every moment of youth, every unspoken feeling of love had now become solid building blocks, shaping who I was today. I no longer ran from myself, nor did I crave anything but living authentically and cherishing every present moment. During the months of healing, I experienced a wide spectrum of emotions. There were lonely days that felt endless, nights filled with countless what-ifs and if-onlys. Yet, through it all, I learned to let go. Letting go was not forgetting or ceasing to love, was acknowledging that happiness cannot depend on one single person. True happiness begins within, in the way we love, care for, and respect our own hearts. One rainy afternoon, I wandered into a small, cozy cafe where I used to spend time with friends. The warmth of the space, the aroma of coffee, the soft music weaving through the room, it all felt comforting. By chance, I saw him. This time, it wasn't a special occasion or a significant event, just a casual moment in everyday life. When our eyes met, I realized the distance between us was lighter now, no longer heavy or tense. We smiled, shared a few stories about life, and it struck me that this connection had transformed into a deep, peaceful friendship free from longing, filled with understanding and mutual respect. I came to understand that love doesn't always need reciprocation to be meaningful. Sometimes, love is simply the experience we live fully, a lesson that helps us grow, and a strength that allows us to keep moving forward. And he too. I could see in his eyes the calm, the maturity, and the understanding that sometimes loving doesn't mean possessing. That moment marked the end of old pain and the beginning of true emotional freedom. From that moment on, I expanded my life in my own way. I took long trips, explored new places, learned skills I had never dared to try, and pursued projects I once only imagined. Each new experience, whether small or large, gave me a chance to understand myself more deeply, to test my limits, and to realize my capacity for resilience. I understood that growing up is not only about emotions, but also about action, about daring to step out of our comfort zones and live fully. I also broadened my relationships, not only friendships, but also profound, meaningful connections. I learned to trust, to give without expectation, and to appreciate the small but significant joys in life. Every conversation, every smile, every shared experience became a building block for a rich, full life. My work became a crucial part of my journey. I no longer worked solely to earn a living. I worked to grow, to prove that I could achieve what I wanted through effort and my own abilities. I learned to set goals, overcome challenges, and take pride in every small achievement. Work became a way to express my maturity, confidence, and ability to create value for myself. Along this journey, challenges continued to appear. There were exhausting, stressful days. Moments of loneliness returned at times, and difficult decisions had to be made. But this time, I didn't run. I faced challenges, learned to heal myself, and turned obstacles into opportunities to understand myself more fully. I realized that true strength isn't avoiding pain, but daring to experience it, to feel deeply, and to grow from it. One of the most important lessons I learned was that life is never perfect, but it is precisely its imperfections that make it beautiful. Not everything goes according to plan, not every love story is complete, but if we learn to accept, to appreciate, and to treasure every moment, we can find true happiness and inner peace. And then I began to dream of the future, a future not dependent on anyone else, but built on my own abilities, passions, and choices. I dreamed of new adventures, creative projects, authentic relationships, and a life where I am always the best version of myself. Each dream reminded me that I am in control, that my happiness is my responsibility, and that I don't need to rely on the past or others to shape it. I realized that growing up isn't just about overcoming heartbreak or ending a love story. It's the ability to stand firm with oneself, to honor the past, and to open the heart to the future. I learned to love myself, to give without expectation, and to savor each moment with an open heart. As spring painted the city with colors, I stood in a park, breathing in the fresh air, and looking around with eyes full of joy and hope. I understood that happiness isn't a destination, it's the journey itself. Every experience, every feeling, every person who passes through our lives is a stepping stone on the path we walk. And I, with all my growth and experiences, was ready to walk this path with confidence and strength. I smiled at myself, knowing that everything I had gone through was invaluable. Love, even if incomplete, is a priceless lesson. Memories, even those that once hurt, now give me the strength to live better, to love myself more, and to embrace every opportunity that comes my way. I stepped forward, one step at a time, with a peaceful heart, eyes shining with hope, and a soul that cherishes every moment. The future is wide open, and I am brave enough, mature enough to live a full life, true to myself. This story doesn't end in sadness or loss, it ends in peace, growth, and a powerful message. Life is yours. Love is an experience, and happiness is something you create. Love, live, and never be afraid to open your heart to the world, with a heart wide open and full of hope. I know that the journey ahead is long, but I am ready for all the beauty, all the new opportunities, and all the happiness life has to offer. And that is the complete ending, not only of the story, but of a journey of growth, strength, and deep emotion that leaves a lasting impression on anyone who listens or reads.